Hello, and welcome to the Funding Puzzle, a presentation about the issues behind our November 8th referendum. I'm Dan Bush, Business Manager for the School District of Lodi, and here in Part 2, we'll talk about what's been going on in our district and what you'll be asked to vote on November 8th. Just to recap, in Part 1, we discussed how Wisconsin schools are largely funded with a combination of state aid and local property taxes. State aid, in turn, is driven by a district's property value, specifically property value per resident student. However, the revenue limit, the total amount of state aid and property taxes we can collect, determines our resources to educate our children. The revenue limit, minus our state aid, is our property tax levy. So, let's talk about what's been going on with the revenue limit here in Lodi since 2009. There has been a lot of change over the past several years. As mentioned in Part 1, the revenue limit was designed with an inflationary increase every year. If the law had remained in place, we would have had a steady but slow increase over the past several years. However, when the Great Recession hit in 2008, Governor Doyle's final budget broke the link between the revenue limit and the rate of inflation, allowing only a $200 per student increase. Still an increase, but below the rate of inflation that had been in place under the prior law. Then, of course, Governor Walker's first budget and Act 10 came into place. They imposed, in the 2011-12 school year, a 5.5% cut in districts' revenue limits statewide. Act 10 was, of course, meant to provide the so-called tools districts and other governments would need to manage that cut. Since then, per pupil increases in the revenue limit have been little or nothing. Combined with our slow enrollment decline in the district, our base revenue limit has been flat to slowly declining. Now, the state put into place in 2012 a new aid program called Per Pupil Aid, which gave a small, flat amount of funding per student. It has provided some limited relief to Lodi and other districts throughout the state, but has also not kept up with inflation. Fortunately, here in Lodi, the community has been willing to support the district with 2 school referenda that have softened the impact of the stagnating revenue limit. The current referendum of $950,000 per year expires after 2017, and if trends continue, costs will continue to go up, but the district's revenue will remain flat, or possibly even decline. That said, the school board decided to hold a referendum on November 8th. What they've done is put 3 questions on the ballot. The first of those relates to our revenue limit. Going back to this graph, what the board is asking is for voters to approve an additional $1.7 million per year over the next 5 years, on top of our base revenue limit. This represents a 4% increase in our general fund revenue from where we're at right now in the final year of our 3-year, $950,000 referendum. If our current referendum expires and this question is not approved, the district will see a 5% cut in our general fund revenue. To put that number into context, $1.7 million can buy a number of different things for the district. $1.7 million represents about 23 to 30 staff, depending on what portion of that is teachers, educational aides, administrators, staff, etc. That is about 11 to 15% of the district's full-time employment. $1.7 million is about 70% of the district's total benefit costs, health insurance, life insurance, dental, etc. $1.7 million is 3 times our entire extracurricular budget. We could cut all sports, all extracurricular programming, and we would only be a third of the way to $1.7 million. Or $1.7 million is twice as much as we spend on busing students to and from school. However, to you as the local property taxpayer, if you compare what you're paying in property taxes now to what you would pay if the $1.7 million question were to pass, this would mean less than $4 a week for the median Lodi homeowner. That is what $1.7 million means to the district and to you. The second question is to replace the existing primary school and renovate and reconfigure our other schools for a total of $22 million. This has been a 2-year process to develop this plan, and while I won't go into detail on it, the estimated annual impact would be about $1.4 million per year for the next 21 years. The third question is to construct a second gym onto the high school, as well as expand the wrestling room and move the weight room for a total of $9 million. Again, this came out of the 2-year facility development process, and the estimated annual impact would be about $800,000 per year over the next 21 years. The question everyone has with a school referendum is, what will it cost? What will this do to my tax bill? In 2016-2017, the final year of our current $950,000 referendum and the final year of paying off our debt from the middle and high schools, the impact of those two on the property tax bill is about $2.70 on the mill rate. Now, if the $1.7 million question passes, this will replace that with about $1.70 over the next 5 years on the mill rate. If you add the primary school on top of that, that's about another $1.20, and the gym would add about another 60 cents. In total, the November 8th referendum would have a mill rate of about $3.60 compared to $2.70 for the current referenda expiring this year. In dollar terms, this means that the median homeowner in Lodi will see a difference between their December 2016 tax bill and their tax bills over the next 5 years of about $204. An owner of a $100,000 property would see an $82 difference, and a $400,000 property owner would see a $330 difference. Okay, let's bring this all together. The first thing to keep in mind is that the base level of property tax here in Lodi depends much more on decisions made down in Madison than on what our school board is able to decide. More and more districts are turning to referenda just to keep the doors open. There are 67 referendum questions on ballots across the state this November 8th, and about 75% of them have been passing in recent years. This is a growing trend that many legislators describe as the new normal. The second thing to keep in mind is that our costs have continued to increase with inflation, but the so-called tools of Act 10 have been used. With a growing teacher shortage, we cannot afford to further erode teacher pay and benefits. This year, we're already having difficulty recruiting, especially with substitute teachers and educational aides. Next, the physical needs of the district are serious, particularly with the primary school. It is an aged building that requires about $2.5 million in critical repairs, money that the board simply cannot justify investing into the building. Finally, we have a unique opportunity in Lodi to reinvest in our schools. With the current referendum expiring and the middle and high school debt being paid off, these 3 questions would present less of an immediate and sharp tax impact than they might on their own. The transition between the old referendum and the new one will be much softer than if we wait a period of years and have to come back to referendum down the line. We hope you found this presentation informative. If you have any more questions about the referendum or its financial impacts, please contact me. My email address is bushda@lodischoolswi.org, or contact me here at the district office at 592-3851. Thank you.